Hello, this is Colin Liddell, the Chief Editor of Alternative Right, and this is a short 5 to 10 minute long podcast to update our readers and listeners on matters relating to the site and to briefly comment on the events of the day. And today is the 9th of April 2017. Now, regarding the site, we've had a bit of a problem. Our main comment system that we've been using is Discus, but in recent days it's been crashing for some unknown reason. I've had a look at it, I've been tinkering with it a bit, and it might be a temporary thing or it might be a more permanent problem. Possibly there's a clash with Blogger. That might be influenced by Google's own ambitions to control the commenting system through its Google Plus system. I don't know. Anyway, it's not the sort of thing I like to get too involved with, but it's one of my regrettable tech duties. But I kind of like the idea that this minor technical issue might actually be driven by some sort of petty competitive drive between two internet companies. Because I guess, you could sometimes look at geopolitics in the same way. And right now we're at a kind of very interesting juncture possibly in geopolitics because about 2 or 3 days ago, Donald Trump ordered a missile strike on Syria. And this has become a major issue in the alt-right because, one of the reasons that we were very much in favor of Donald Trump was because of his foreign policy. And in particular, he seemed to be a clear break with the neocon tendency, which had always been very, very dominant in the Republican Party and to a certain extent the Democrat Party for the last couple of decades. So many people in the alt-right are seeing this as a betrayal. I would advise people to at least wait and see. There's a good case to be made that this attack on this Syrian airbase was largely a kind of gestural political thing, with Trump trying to demonstrate using $60 million of American taxpayer-funded fireworks that he was not in Putin's pocket. And the most effective way of doing that was to apparently blow up a Syrian airbase. Very few people were killed in the attack. I believe Trump actually warned the Russians about the coming attack. No doubt the Russians let the Syrians know, and most of the people were removed from the base. Probably most of the best aircraft as well were quickly removed. And so it looks like basically the big fireworks show damaged a few empty hangars and temporarily damaged a bit of runway tarmac, which has now been repaired, and the base is already operational again. So that's one theory. Of course, Secretary of State Tillerson, an ex-oil man who actually used to work in Russia, I believe, he's been coming out with statements that their intention is now to remove Assad. And this is hot on the heels of earlier statements by Trump, by the Trump administration, that removing Assad was not at all important or among their priorities. So there are, of course, a number of other possibilities. One possibility is that the situation on the ground has changed a lot. There was a story on alt-right news which was putting forward the case that because the Syrian Democratic Forces have been doing probably better than expected, and that they are now providing an acceptable, inverted commas, alternative to the Assad regime. Now, during the earlier part of the war, a defeat for Assad would have equaled a victory for ISIS or possibly al-Nusra, which is an al-Qaeda-derived terrorist grouping. Neither of those possibilities were very acceptable to Middle America. And what's been happening over the last few years, and this of course includes during the Obama administration, was that the United States was building up an acceptable alternative to Assad, and it was mainly based upon the Kurds in the north of the country. Now, the Kurds are less motivated by Islamic fundamentalism. Most of the Sunni Arabs are either with Assad or they are supporting these Salafist, radical Islamic extremist groups. But the Kurds were different. They were more motivated by kind of nationalism and also by various kinds of left-wing and anarchist ideologies. Also, they're very, very good on gender equality because they have a lot of female battalions. And so they had the right kind of image. They were the right kind of brand that the Americans could then build up as an acceptable force. The main problem with the Kurdish forces is that the Turks don't like them. They're not very happy about this. And so the Americans have had to do a lot of compensating there, working very hard to try and keep the Turks from like losing their shit over this. And also these Kurdish movements are not broad-based enough to represent a kind of national solution. So the Americans have also been working very, very hard to try to get more and more Arabs on board. But they've used the Kurdish militias as the basis of this movement, and then they've tried to kind of astroturf on various kinds of Arab groups and through bribery and various kinds of encouragement. And there are now quite a few Arabs involved in the Syrian Democratic Forces. And the Syrian Democratic Forces, with all this American help and with military help, apparently there's about 1,000 US military personnel kind of on the ground, walking them through the war, giving them good advice and military and air support. And the Syrian Democratic Forces have been doing very, very well. There was a big battle, so it seems, around the town of Tabqa, which is this town right behind this major dam on the Euphrates River. And this was more or less the kind of main western defensive position for the ISIS capital of Raqqa, which is, I think, about 30-40 miles away. Apparently, the Americans helped the SDF fighters to cross the Euphrates in a kind of quite a daring flanking move, and they managed to surround the town of Tabqa. And they are now in a good position once they kind of consolidate to push on from there towards Raqqa. And so if they capture Raqqa, that will be a big blow to ISIS, and it will be a big boost for the SDF brand. And so with the SDF looking quite strong and getting more Arabs involved, the Americans were in a position to say, maybe we don't have to just let Assad stay. Maybe we can reopen up this question of regime change. Now, I don't think it's going to be that easy. At best, the Americans are maybe preparing a kind of bargaining chip that they can use with the Russians in some sort of wider agreement, possibly involving the Ukraine. So basically what we're seeing here is not necessarily a neocon versus an anti-neocon struggle with Trump at the center. It's basically just, geopolitics as normal, with these big militaristic powers projecting influence for their own vested interests. Now, there were many in the alt-right who had a very idealistic view that Trump would just retreat entirely from those kind of global geopolitics. Probably that was a slightly naive view. Because of the nature of the beast, America is going to be involved in geopolitics for some time to come. So America is going to be involved in geopolitics. Some of us might dislike that intensely, and some of us might be more ambivalent. But I think that's the way it is, and it would be a bit naive to expect Trump just to take a back seat in geopolitics, especially when they've managed to kind of box him in on a lot of his domestic issues. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on the matter for now, so I'll end here. Okay, over and out.